everyone, God bless you and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be discussing living with loss. My aim for this one is to provide you all with a few strategies for managing grief. Death is an uncomfortable topic. It's a tough topic. It's one that many of us don't like to discuss because it's painful, to be honest. And it's also very traumatizing, especially if you have lost someone who was very near and dear to you, someone who was significant in your life and a very important figure in your life. And in death, when you lose a very close loved one, it's not something that you ever get over, but it is something that we can learn to manage. And it's something that we have to manage day by day because every day is not the same. So my prayer for you in this video is that what I provide, the strategies I provide, will be a help to your life as you go through bereavement. And it doesn't matter if you lost this loved one or certain loved ones years ago, decades ago, if it was very recently, it's all the same. And it still hurts. And when you lose someone that is close to you, it's really, when you're living with loss, it's like this massive and this huge pocket of emptiness that can never get full when that person is gone. And it's like I said earlier, it's not something that you get over, but that you just manage day by day. So I want to go through these strategies. These strategies are helping me because I'm still going through grief with the loss of significant people in my life. And I just hope that this video helps you out a bit. So let's get into the first strategy. So what we want to do as we go through bereavement and as we go through the changes of loss and as we are living with loss, we want to express our feelings. It's very important to get it out, especially when that loss is fresh, right? So we want to be able to express our emotions, whether it is we cry it out, whether we talk it out with someone, but we have to get it out. And whatever those emotions are, it could be, like I said, crying, it could be anger, it could be disbelief, it could be doubt, whatever it is that you're feeling, it's very important that you express your feelings, because if you keep it bottled up on the inside, it could be actually very detrimental to you. And I have seen people and known of people get very sick, very ill because they have bottled those emotions and that grief up on the inside, and it can have a very severe impact on you physically. It can take a physical toll on your health. It could take a psychological toll on your mental health. It can take a toll on your soul. So you want to make sure that you express whatever it is, whatever feeling, whatever stage you are in your grief, that you get it all the way out, and that you try to get it out in a very healthy way. And make sure that you have a support system, but it's very, very important that you express whatever you're feeling. And sometimes the feelings, it just hits you. You may not even be thinking about the person, and it may hit you at some weird time, at a weird location. And those are the times where you just may have to let it go, and you may have to excuse yourself and maybe find a quiet room or a quiet place, or go sit in your car and just let it out. Or even if you're like at work someplace, or maybe you're in a public place, go to the restroom and just let it out. But it's very important that you express your feelings and get that out, because it's part of the process, and it's part of the process of managing your grief. So that's number one, make sure you express your feelings. Number two, be sure to take care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself. When we lose someone, especially if it's a loss where you don't get much closure, maybe your loved one went missing and is presumed dead, or maybe it's a case of suicide or a homicide, your loved one was killed or murdered. These things are terrible, and it's tough. And what we do is when it's something or your loved one, it was a sudden death, sudden tragic death. No one was expecting it, right? It's one thing if your loved one was sick for a period of time and everyone knew the inevitable was coming. That's still painful. But when it's a sudden death, if it's a tragic death, it's something that you don't understand and that maybe there's some mystery to it, it's even more painful. And we tend to, in these instances, we tend to blame ourselves, and there's some guilt behind it, especially if it's like a suicide. And you think to yourself, well, maybe there's something more I could have done to help my loved one out, or maybe if I was there, that wouldn't have happened, or that scenario or that situation wouldn't have gone down that way. So I don't want you to blame yourself. I don't want you to carry the guilt. It's very important that you take care of yourself and you just release it. Things happen. And when death comes, there's not much that we can do about it, but please don't carry the guilt. Please don't blame yourself. Just be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to release any guilt that you may have from this loss, and take care of yourself. Be sure that you are doing what you need to do for yourself, that you are getting up and trying to go about your daily life, making sure that you take care of your health and your well-being, making sure that you do the things that you should normally do throughout the course of the day, whether it be self-grooming, and if you are a person who has struggled with addiction, when you suffer a tragic loss or a sudden loss, when you're coping, you're dealing with death, that could be a trigger for a relapse. So you have to make sure that you are going to your programs, that you're talking to the right people, that you have your support system. But please, during this time, it's important for us to take care of yourselves. And it doesn't really matter if, especially when it's a death that recently happened and it's, something that's fresh, but even if it's something that happened years ago, a death that occurred years ago, decades ago, we still have to take care of ourselves and to make sure that we are doing the things that we need to do to make sure that we're mentally and physically healthy, making sure that if we're taking our medications, if we're seeking counseling, or if we're in a program, that we're doing those things. And if we even need to put ourselves in a program to manage grief and to sit with a group and to talk it out, all of that is healthy, but we have to take care of ourselves, continue to eat well and to exercise and to do all the self-grooming, the things that we know we need to do in order to learn to manage it. And that's part of managing grief, is to care for ourselves and not give up and not just resign to the overwhelming feeling of grief. And we have to release any guilt that we may have, or if you feel like you could have done more to prevent it. When death comes, it comes, and if it happened, it happened. But we have to try to move on, and we move on by taking care of ourselves. Number 3, the third strategy is when death occurs, death in the family, death of someone close to us, we want to make sure, especially if it's sudden and it's new and it just happened, we want to avoid making any major decisions, life decisions, right? Any major serious life decisions, whether it be some big move someplace or a change of jobs or whatever it is we want, or going out and buying something like a house, or just doing something that will really have a major impact on our lives. Any major life changes, any major life decisions, we want to kind of like hold off on that. Take a pause in that, because we want to give ourselves a little time to adjust to the loss, and just to make sure that we're in the right headspace when we are making major decisions. So do not make a huge and major life decision right after a major loss, because we may regret it afterward, because we may think back and say, hey, I wasn't in the right headspace and I wasn't thinking very clearly. I was overwhelmed with the grief and maybe I should have waited on that decision. So it's a good idea to postpone what you want to do and think about it a bit and just let a little time go by before you make those life changing decisions, because when you're in the thick of grief, sometimes we're not rational and we're definitely not ourselves, and it's going to take time to adjust to the new normal and a new way of being, especially if it's, you lose your mother, you lose your father, you lose your child, you lose your spouse, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your grandparent, aunt, uncle, godparent, your best friend, whoever it may be. It's going to take an adjustment, not especially if that person was with you every day. It's going to take an adjustment of not having that person with you, especially if it was the person who was giving you the good sound advice and you really leaned and relied on that person for so much, and that person was like an anchor for you. Don't go off making some huge major life decision. Just wait a little bit before you make the decision. I'm not saying you shouldn't make the decisions, but just wait a little bit and you'll be a little bit more clear-headed in the end. So that's number 3. Number 4, the next strategy is to just be patient and kind. And once again, with yourself, be patient with yourself. And like I said, death is not something that you just get over. And sometimes it could be a year later, it could be 5 years later, or even a decade later, and you're like, I'm still here. And it's going to take time for it not to feel like so raw within, right? And it's going to take time for that stinging pain to numb out a little bit. And it will numb and it will get better. But just be patient with yourself, and you may not get over it. Not saying to get over it, but you may not. It may not be. It may be a situation where you're just going to have to wait just a little bit. So just be patient with yourself. Just be kind to yourself, and just know that with grief, it's going to take time for you to be able to go about your daily life without constantly thinking about the person that you've lost. It's going to take time for you maybe not to cry every night. It's going to take time for you to be able sometimes to be able to think of that person and to be able to laugh or smile or think of the good times, not to just break down in tears. So just be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself, and just know that it's going to take time for you to manage it better, and for you to get through and move forward as you live your life without the person that you loved so much. So be patient. Nextly and lastly, please seek out caring people and professional help if necessary. It's important that you do not isolate yourself. It's important that you surround yourself with love, that you surround yourself with people who care for you, that you ask. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for a listening ear if you need it. And if you need to speak to a counselor or a therapist, or maybe sit in a grief group, maybe at your church or wherever, definitely do that. If you need to go back to your program, let's say if you're in AA, or if you have struggled with some sort of addiction, definitely be on the up and up with your programs, because death is a trigger. It's definitely a trigger. So make sure that you surround yourself with support, with love, and it will help you to move forward during your time of bereavement. And those are basically the strategies that are helping me I'm saying helping because I'm still dealing with major losses in my life. And if you've clicked this video, I'm sure you are too. And my prayer for you is that you continue to heal, that you continue to move forward, and you continue to also remember that person that you lost in a good way. You know, actually, they're not really lost. They're still with you, and their memories are still with you, and do all that you can to remember and honor them. That helps as well. Maybe set aside an occasion, maybe on their birthday or whenever, but be sure you take the time to honor that person, because I found that to be helpful. And also live a good life, and whatever that person has deposited in your life or in you or in your soul or in your spirit while they were living, be sure to live out those things that they have left with you. So whether it was a parent or a grandparent or a spouse, the good things that they have left with you, those are the things that you carry with you, and that's how they live on and live on through you. That's all I want to share with you in this video. Take care, God bless, and I will see you in the next one.